Welcome to the slideshow on the dramatic monologue. What is a dramatic monologue, you say? This is a new kind of poem that is invented during the Victorian era. And according to literary scholar M.H. Abrams, it is a lyric poem, so just like all the other poems that we've read, a lyric poem, but it has the following features. 1. A speaker who is clearly not the poet utters the entire poem in a specific situation at a critical moment. This person addresses and interacts with one or more other people. Um, in addition to the speaker, there's a listener. Now, this is usually called the implied auditor or implied listener. And this other person in the poem does not speak. So we just have one speaker. This is how this is different from like a soliloquy in a play where we have a character speaking out loud. In this case, we do have a character speaking out loud, but there is another person in the room who is usually able to hear them, but they don't talk. And lastly, kind of like the most important thing, is that what the speaker says reveals things about his or her character and what he or she believes. So we have these three things. A speaker who is not the poet speaking in a specific situation at a specific moment. An implied auditor or listener, and that the speaker reveals things about him or herself. So those are the basic qualities of a dramatic monologue. I would like you to think about how this works for two poems. One is a poem that we have already read, Dover Beach, but we didn't talk about it being a dramatic monologue. Well, we do have a speaker. He is not named, but we have a speaker, and he's speaking in a very specific situation, right? He is looking it's at nighttime and he's looking out at the sea. Right? It's a very specific moment in time. We have the implied auditor, that is his lover, right? Remember, come to the window, right? He is speaking to someone, but this person never speaks in the poem. And we get something revealed about the speaker. We understand his thoughts. He's losing his faith, not just his faith in the religion, but this is also his faith in progress and society, the faith that the future will be better than the past. He sees the world as a fundamentally flawed and difficult place. So we do get some things revealed about the speaker. One of the poems that we have for Friday, Ulysses, is a very famously a dramatic monologue. So as you read Ulysses, I want you to think about who is the speaker, what is his situation, who is listening, who are the implied auditors, and what do we learn about the speaker's character? So think about those things for Friday. What is not a dramatic monologue? Well, you might say, like, this sounds so much like a romantic conversation poem. Like, we had a determinate speaker, and, they're going through all these things in their mind and their mental processes. Dramatic monologues are just romantic conversation poems. Not exactly. If we think about, like, classic romantic conversation poems like Tintern Abbey or Frost at Midnight, we're actually pretty encouraged to identify the speaker with the poet. And the main purpose of the poem isn't to like reveal someone's character. It's more to like present us with some philosophical insights about like nature and memory and time. However, I do suggest that we should see the dramatic monologue as something that evolves out of the romantic conversation poem. And this is one way that Victorian poets continue the romantic poetical tradition, but also start to make things their own. Well, what's so Victorian about this? Well, it's a new poetic form created in the Victorian era, and that makes it pretty Victorian. It also will combine a kind of theatrical interest in character with the private experience of reading and the kind of private emotions that we associate with lyric poetry. So, this is a good example of how Victorian poets shift the private focus of the lyric poet outward, looking at society and history and things like that. So, Ulysses will not be the last dramatic monologue we read. We'll have at least two or three more before the end of the semester. Okay, I'll see you in class.